The signal beyond silence. The observation deck of the UES Aldebaran hummed with the low thrum of deep space engines, a sound so constant that Captain Elena Vasquez had long since stopped hearing it. She floated near the reinforced viewport, magnetic boots disengaged, watching the star field drift past in absolute silence. Out here 12 light years from Earth, the universe felt emptier than it had any right to be. Captain. The voice crackled through her comm. We're picking up something strange. Vasquez pushed off the viewport, drifting toward the corridor that led to the bridge. Define strange, Mitchell. It's a signal, ma'am. But it's old. Really old. The bridge of the Aldebaran was a cramped semicircle of terminals and flickering holographic displays. Lieutenant Commander James Mitchell sat hunched over the communications array, his face lit by the pale blue glow of the screen. Around him, the skeleton crew of humanity's first deep-range exploration vessel worked in focused silence. Vasquez anchored herself beside Mitchell's station. Show me. Mitchell tapped a command sequence, and the main display filled with a waterfall of spectral data. The signal was there, a rhythmic pulse buried beneath layers of cosmic background radiation repeating every 7.3 seconds. Where's it coming from? Vasquez asked. That's the thing, Captain. According to the timestamp encoded in the carrier wave, this signal is 42 years old. It's been traveling through space since before the Aldebaran was even commissioned. Vasquez felt something cold settle in her chest. Origin point? Mitchell pulled up a star chart. A red marker pulsed in the darkness between systems. Deep interstellar space. Thousands of astronomical units from the nearest star. There's nothing out there, Mitchell said quietly. No planets. No stations. According to every survey we've ever conducted, that region is completely empty. Then where did the signal come from? No one answered. Vasquez stared at the pulsing marker. Humanity had been reaching into the cosmos for less than a century. The first colony ships had only just arrived at Proxima Centauri. The idea that something had been broadcasting from the void for over 4 decades, something no one had ever detected, was impossible. And yet, there it was. Can you decode it? Vasquez asked. Mitchell worked in silence for several minutes, his fingers dancing across the interface. The rest of the bridge crew had stopped their tasks, all eyes on the main display. Finally, Mitchell leaned back. It's not a language. It's coordinates and a date. The display shifted. A 3-dimensional map of local space materialized, with a single point marked in pulsing red. The date appeared below it, March 15, 2043. Vasquez felt her breath catch. That's 12 years ago. Yes, ma'am. What happened on March 15, 2043? Mitchell pulled up the historical database. His face went pale. Captain, that's the day the Zheng He disappeared. The name hung in the air like a curse. Everyone on the bridge knew the story. The Zheng He, China's first deep space survey vessel, had vanished without a trace during a routine patrol near the Kuiper Belt. No distress signal. No debris, no survivors. The investigation had concluded it was likely a catastrophic reactor failure, vaporizing the ship instantly. But if that were true, Vasquez thought, then what the hell was broadcasting from the middle of nowhere? Mitchell, how far are we from those coordinates? Mitchell calculated quickly. At our current velocity, 11 days. Vasquez closed her eyes. Protocol was clear. They were on a survey mission, charting stellar phenomena for the Earth Union Science Directorate. Deviations required authorization from Mission Control, but Mission Control was 12 light years away. Any message she sent would take 12 years to arrive. She opened her eyes. Plot a new course. Take us to those coordinates. Captain, that's an order, Mitchell. The crew exchanged glances, but no one protested. They were explorers. This was what they had signed up for. The Aldebaran changed course, its fusion drives burning bright against the infinite dark. For 11 days, the crew worked in tense silence. They ran diagnostics. They rechecked the signal. They combed through every scrap of data from the Zheng He's last mission. Nothing explained what they were about to find. On the morning of the 12th day, they arrived. The coordinates hung in empty space, far from any stellar body. Vasquez stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen, waiting for something, anything, to appear. Sensor sweep, she ordered. The scanning officer, a young woman named Chen, ran the array. Nothing, Captain. No ships, no debris, no— Wait, what is it? Chen's hands trembled over the controls. There's something there. It's not showing up on visual, but the gravimetric sensors are picking up a mass. A big one. How big? Chen swallowed. Roughly the size of a small moon. That's impossible, Mitchell said. We'd see something that large. Unless it's not reflecting light, Vasquez said slowly. She turned to Chen. Run a full spectrum scan. Infrared, ultraviolet, everything. The screen flickered. And then slowly something began to materialize. It was vast. A shape emerged from the darkness, organic, writhing, its surface rippling like oil on water. It absorbed light, drank it in, leaving only a hole in space where something ancient and wrong hung suspended in the void. And at its center, embedded like a fly in amber, was the shattered hull of the Zheng-He. Vasquez felt her pulse hammering in her ears. Captain, Chen whispered, I'm detecting movement. The thing in space was alive, and it had noticed them. The silence that screams. The thing in space did not move like a ship. It did not drift with the predictable grace of celestial mechanics. It pulsed, a slow, rhythmic contraction that sent ripples across its surface like breath through living tissue. Captain Elena Vasquez stood frozen on the bridge of the Aldebaran, her eyes locked on the view screen. The entity filled the entire display now, a vast absence of light that her brain struggled to process. It was less a thing she was seeing and more a thing she was feeling, a wrongness that pressed against the inside of her skull. Distance? She asked, her voice steady despite the ice in her veins. 40,000 kilometers and holding, Mitchell replied. His hands hovered over the navigation controls, ready to fire the engines at a moment's notice. Chen, what are we looking at? The scanning officer's face was pale, her eyes reflecting the cascade of data streaming across her terminal. I don't know, Captain. The mass readings are inconsistent. 1 second it's showing as solid matter, the next it's dispersed like it's phasing in and out of normal space. What about the Zheng-He? Chen adjusted the scan parameters. The image on the view screen shifted, zooming in on the wreckage embedded within the entity's center. The hull of the Chinese survey vessel was twisted and broken, its structural ribs exposed like the skeleton of some ancient beast. But there was something else, something that made Vasquez's breath catch. Captain, Chen whispered, there are still active power signatures inside the wreck. The bridge fell silent. That's impossible, Mitchell said. The Zheng-He disappeared 12 years ago. Even emergency power cells wouldn't last that long. Vasquez leaned forward. Unless someone's still alive in there. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ma'am, we can't, Mitchell began, but Vasquez cut him off. Prep the shuttle. I'm going in. Captain, you can't be serious. That thing is, we don't even know what it is. Vasquez turned to face her crew. Every eye on the bridge was on her. She could see the fear there, the rational terror of stepping into the unknown. But she could also see something else, the stubborn, irrational hope that had driven humanity out into the stars in the first place. If there's even a chance someone's alive on that ship, Vasquez said quietly, then we have to try. That's what we do. That's what makes us human. Mitchell held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'm coming with you, like hell you are. You're second in command. If something happens to me, the crew needs you. With respect, Captain, the crew needs you alive, which means you need backup. Vasquez almost smiled. Fine, but we take Chen too. I want a sensor specialist on site. Chen looked up from her terminal, surprise and terror warring on her face. Then she straightened. Yes, ma'am. The shuttle detached from the Aldebaran with a soft hiss of pressurized air. Vasquez sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls as they drifted toward the entity. Through the forward viewport, the thing in space grew larger, impossibly large, until it filled her entire field of vision. Readings? She asked. Chen worked the shuttle's sensor array. I'm detecting trace amounts of organic compounds on the surface. Complex hydrocarbons, amino acid chains. Captain, this thing is biological. How biological? As biological as you or me. Mitchell let out a slow breath. So we're flying into the mouth of some kind of space whale. A space whale that ate a starship and kept it alive for 12 years, Chen added. Let's not jump to conclusions, Vasquez said, though her own mind was racing through equally impossible scenarios. We stick to the mission. Get to the Zheng-He, check for survivors, get out. Nice and simple, no one believed her. The shuttle's external lights cut through the darkness as they approached the entity's surface. Up close, the rippling texture resolved into something almost fractal, Patterns within patterns, organic and geometric at once, as if someone had tried to build a living thing using mathematics instead of DNA. "I'm reading an opening," Chen said. "About 200 meters ahead. I think it's a cavity, large enough for the shuttle to pass through." Vasquez adjusted their trajectory. The opening yawned before them like a wound in reality, a jagged tear in the entity's surface that pulsed with a faint bioluminescent glow. "Here we go," Vasquez murmured, and guided the shuttle inside. The interior of the entity was a cathedral of organic architecture. Vast chambers stretched in all directions, their walls lined with structures that resembled veins or cables or neural pathways. Vasquez couldn't tell which. The bioluminescence was everywhere, casting everything in a sickly greenish light that made her stomach turn. "Following the power signature," Chen said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Zheng He should be directly ahead." They flew in silence, the shuttle's engines the only sound. And then, through the translucent tissue of the entity's interior, Vasquez saw it. The Zheng He hung suspended in what looked like a cocoon of organic matter, thick, fibrous strands that wrapped around the hull and disappeared into the surrounding tissue. The ship's running lights were on, flickering weakly, and through the viewports Vasquez could see movement. "Oh God," Mitchell breathed. "There's someone in there." Vasquez brought the shuttle alongside the wreck. Through the viewport she could see into the Zheng He's bridge. A figure sat at the communications console, hunched and unmoving. "Chen, scan that person." Chen's hands shook as she worked the controls. "I'm getting a heartbeat." "Slow but present. Captain, whoever that is, they're alive. Then we're getting them out." "Mitchell, prep the docking clamp. We're going to—" "Captain." Chen's voice was sharp. "I'm detecting movement." Outside the ship, Vasquez looked up. Through the translucent walls of the entity's interior, shapes were moving. Long, serpentine forms that undulated through the organic tissue like eels through water. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, and they were all converging on the shuttle. "Engines," Vasquez snapped, but it was too late. Something slammed into the shuttle's hull with enough force to send them spinning. Alarms shrieked as atmosphere began to leak from a dozen microfractures. Through the viewport, Vasquez caught glimpses of the things outside. Segmented bodies covered in translucent flesh, clusters of eyes that glowed with the same sickly bioluminescence as the entity itself. "We're losing pressure," Mitchell shouted. Vasquez fought the controls, trying to stabilize their spin. Another impact. Then another. The shuttle's hull groaned under the assault. "Chen, get us a trajectory back to the Aldebaran." "I'm trying, but the gravitational field inside this thing is fluctuating. I can't get a stable reading." Another impact, harder this time. The forward viewport cracked, and then impossibly, a voice crackled through the shuttle's comm system. "Turn back." The voice was human, female, speaking English with a Chinese accent. "Turn back while you still can. We woke it up. We woke it up and now it's hungry." "Who is this?" Vasquez demanded. "Identify yourself, static." Then, "Commander Liu Feng, Chinese Space Force. Serial number 4x72991 Alpha. If you're hearing this, you need to leave, now, before it—" The voice cut off, and in the silence that followed, Vasquez heard something else, a sound that came not through the comm system, but through the shuttle's hull itself, a deep, subsonic vibration that resonated in her bones. The entity was aware of them, and it was not pleased. "Get us out of here," Vasquez screamed. Mitchell slammed the throttle forward. The shuttle's engines roared to life, tearing them free from the grasping tendrils and hurtling back toward the opening. Behind them, the interior of the entity convulsed, the walls contracting like the throat of some vast beast beginning to swallow. They burst into open space just as the opening snapped shut behind them. "Full burn," Vasquez ordered. "Get us back to the Aldebaran now." The shuttle streaked away from the entity, its engines burning white-hot. Behind them, the thing in space began to move, not toward them, toward the Aldebaran. The price of knowing. The Aldebaran was not built for combat. It was a survey vessel, sensors and laboratories, not weapons and armor. As Captain Elena Vasquez's shuttle screamed toward the ship, she watched the entity on her rear display growing closer, its vast form rippling through space with a speed that defied physics. "Aldebaran, this is Vasquez. Emergency burn, full power. Get us out of here now." The comm crackled. "Captain, what's happening?" Our sensors are showing do it. Through the shuttle's viewport, Vasquez saw the Aldebaran's engines flare to life. The ship began to accelerate, pulling away from the coordinates where they'd found the entity. But it wasn't fast enough. The thing was gaining. Docking in 30 seconds, Mitchell said, his voice tight. Behind them, the entity had begun to change. Its surface was no longer smooth and rippling. It was opening, unfurling like some terrible flower, revealing an interior that glowed with that same sickly bioluminescence. 20 seconds. Vasquez could see shapes moving within that glow. The serpentine creatures from before, thousands of them, writhing and coiling in preparation for what? An attack, a feeding? 10 seconds. The shuttle slammed into the Aldebaran's docking bay with enough force to trigger every safety alarm on the ship. Vasquez didn't wait for the airlock to cycle properly. She override the safeties and yanked open the hatch, stumbling into the corridor beyond. Bridge. Now. They ran through the corridors of the Aldebaran, magnetic boots pounding against the deck plates. Behind them, the ship shuddered as something massive struck the hull. Vasquez burst onto the bridge. Status. The duty officer, a young man named Park, looked up with wide eyes. Captain, that thing it's attached itself to our hull. We can't break free. On the main display, Vasquez could see it clearly now. The entity had extended tendrils, thick organic cables that had latched onto the Aldebaran like a lamprey onto prey. The ship's engines were screaming, burning at maximum output, but they weren't moving. Weapons? Vasquez asked, knowing the answer. We don't have weapons, Captain. We're a science vessel. Vasquez slammed her fist against the command console. 12 light years from home. No weapons, no backup. And something vast and hungry had them in its grip. Captain? Chen's voice was quiet. She was staring at her sensor display, her face pale. I'm detecting a transmission. It's coming from inside the entity. The Zheng-He?
Yes, ma'am.
Audio only. I think it's Commander Liu again. Vasquez took a breath. Put her through. Static filled the bridge, then resolved into words. UES Aldebaran. This is Commander Liu Feng of the Zheng-He. If you're receiving this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry we led you here. Commander Liu, this is Captain Elena Vasquez. What is that thing? What happened to your ship? A long silence. Then, we found it during a deep survey mission. A signal just like you did. We thought it was first contact. We thought we'd found alien life. You did find alien life, Vasquez said. No. Liu's voice was hollow. We found a trap. Another shudder ran through the Aldebaran. On the display, Vasquez could see the tendrils tightening, pulling the ship closer to the entity's core. It's old, Captain. Older than our species. Older than most stars. It drifts through the void, broadcasting signals into the darkness, waiting for something curious enough to investigate. Waiting for something intelligent. It's hunting, Mitchell breathed. Yes, but not for food. Not in the way you're thinking. Another pause. It feeds on information. On knowledge. On consciousness itself. When we docked with it, when we tried to study it, it got inside our heads. It learned everything we knew. Our language. Our culture. Our fears. And then it kept us alive, kept us conscious so it could continue to feed. Vasquez felt her stomach turn. For 12 years? For 12 years, Liu's voice cracked. There are 17 of us left. We're trapped in a biological suspension. Aware but unable to move, unable to die. It's been feeding on our minds, learning from us, growing stronger, and now it has you. On the sensor display, Chen let out a gasp. Captain, I'm detecting neural activity. The entity it's scanning us. It's reading our computer systems, our databases, cut all external connections, Vasquez ordered. Isolate every system right now. But it was too late. Vasquez could feel it, a presence brushing against the edges of her mind, curious and hungry and utterly alien. The lights on the bridge flickered. The displays showed cascading errors as the entity's consciousness probed deeper into the ship's systems. You can't stop it, Captain. Liu said quietly. Once it has you, it never lets go. The only reason I can still speak is because it allows me to. It wants me to warn others away, and to lure them closer. I'm its voice now. Its herald. There has to be a way to fight it, Vasquez said. But even as she spoke, she could feel the truth settling over her like a shroud. They were caught. There was no escape. There is one way, Liu said. Vasquez straightened. Tell me. The reactor. Overload your fusion reactor. The explosion will destroy both your ship and the entity. It's the only way to stop it from spreading, from reaching Earth. The bridge fell silent. Captain, you can't be considering this, Mitchell said. There has to be another option. There isn't. Vasquez's voice was steady. She looked at her crew. Young faces, brilliant minds, people who had signed up to explore the stars, not to die in the void. Chen, can you rig the reactor to overload? Chen's hands shook. Yes, ma'am. But the failsafes don't override them. Park, send a message buoy back toward Earth. Full compression, maximum speed. Include everything we've learned about this thing. If we're going to die out here, we're going to make damn sure no one else makes the same mistake. Captain, Mitchell began. That's an order, Commander. For a moment, no one moved. Then slowly the crew began to work. Vasquez returned to the viewport, staring out at the entity. It pulsed with that terrible bioluminescence, alien and beautiful and utterly wrong. She thought about Earth, 12 light years away. She thought about her daughter, who would be 16 now, who would never know what happened to her mother. She thought about humanity, still so young, still so fragile, reaching out into a universe that was so much stranger and darker than they'd ever imagined. And she thought about the choice she was making, the choice humanity had always made when faced with the unknown, to fight, to resist, to refuse to yield even in the face of annihilation. Captain, Liu's voice came through the comm one last time. Thank you. For ending this. For ending us. You were explorers, Vasquez said quietly. You died doing what we all signed up for. There's no shame in that. No. And for the first time, Liu's voice held something like hope. No shame. Only stars. The comm went silent. Reactors ready, Captain, Chen said. Her voice was steady now. Overload in 60 seconds. Vasquez looked at her crew, her people, brave and brilliant and utterly human. I'm proud of you. All of you. Mitchell smiled, though his eyes were wet. It's been an honor, Captain. Buoy away, Park reported. Message sent. Vasquez nodded. Through the viewport, she could see the entity beginning to convulse as if it sensed what was coming. The tendrils tightened, trying to pull the Aldebaran deeper into its embrace, but they were done being prey. 30 seconds, Chen said. The lights on the bridge began to flicker. The entity's presence pressed harder against Vasquez's mind, frantic now, searching for a way to stop what was about to happen. 20 seconds. Vasquez closed her eyes. She thought about the stars, about humanity's long climb from the caves to the cosmos, about every explorer who had ever looked at the horizon and decided to see what lay beyond. 10 seconds. They had come so far, and they would go so much farther. Not her, perhaps, but her species, her people. They would learn from this. They would grow stronger. They would endure. 5. Because that's what humans did. 4. They survived. 3. They adapted. 2. They conquered. 1. The fusion reactor reached critical mass, and in the brief, brilliant moment before the explosion consumed everything. The ship, the entity, the darkness itself. Captain Elena Vasquez smiled, because humanity had sent its message into the void. And the message was simple. We will not go quietly. The explosion lit up the darkness like a newborn star, a brief flash of human defiance against the infinite night. The shock wave tore through the entity, disrupting its biological structures, shattering the systems that had kept it alive for countless millennia. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding debris and slowly cooling plasma. And silence. Empty, eternal silence. 3 months later, the message buoy reached the edge of human-controlled space. Its contents were analyzed, debated, and ultimately classified. But the warning was clear. Humanity adjusted its deep space protocols. Future exploration vessels were armed. Suspicious signals were approached with caution. And the names of Elena Vasquez and her crew were entered into the record, honored and remembered, because they had paid the price of knowing. And in doing so, they had bought humanity time to prepare for what waited in the dark. The universe was vast, ancient, and filled with things that hunted in the silence between stars, but humanity was learning, and humanity would be ready,